Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, everyone. Tamara here. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is back once again. His name is Nicholas Spohn. He's a hypnotist and the founder of Ministry of the Mind. And we'll be talking about your values and how they affect you subconsciously. Thanks for joining me, Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was super excited. I'm on your email list, and you mentioned the idea of values and how it can affect you, especially in relationships. Like you think one way, but really subconsciously you don't. So let's dive right in.
Okay, great. So yeah, our values are basically what our subconscious mind moves us towards or away from. So, and when I say subconscious mind, I mean your whole nervous system and your whole body. So if you think about when you feel like you're compelled to do something or you're compelled to leave a situation, and it's just like this drive that comes from the pit of your gut and just this feeling, that's generated by your subconscious mind to move you towards or away from your values. And the problem is nobody ever teaches us how to set our values. So a lot of us have values that are other people's values. And the main problem is that we have multiple values that often conflict with each other. And so this is why, the best metaphor is like we have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, because most of us, we all want to be successful, but a lot of us don't want to have any rejection or failure in our lives. And so, what are the odds of you having any success if you're not willing to fail and learn and face some rejection? So those two things kind of counteract each other. And oftentimes people spin their wheels and they stay stuck because they have conflicting values.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of many examples in my own life. So yes, definitely say more. And especially relationship specific. Well, I mean, yeah, I say I want a relationship, but then I'm afraid of losing my freedom. And so I keep saying it in date. And then I'm like, don't really, I find something wrong or prefer non-available people. So.
Yeah. So and listen, you're not alone. We all have these things where, I was doing a module 2 of our values course last night with the group, and someone was like, oh, I want a job, but then every time I go start interviewing for a job, I really don't, because I want the freedom. And so what's important to understand is that underneath those values, we have what are called rules. So we have a rule for how we know if we've achieved or met that value. And so, you and I can both value the same thing. Let's say we both value intimate connection, but we're going to have a rule that's different about how we know if we're having that, or how we, if we each value success. My definition of success, my rule might be I have X dollars in the bank account, and your rule might be that you have a certain type of relationship. And so the rules are how we know if we're meeting our values. And again, most people have no idea what their rules are underneath it. And then underneath the rules is our beliefs. And so we have beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about other people, beliefs about God and the economy and, the world. And so the beliefs are our strategy for meeting our rules. So many people, we all in a relationship, we want to feel loved. That's a value. And we all have different rules about how we know if we feel loved, right? So they have to tell me they love me. They have to take me on trips or dates. They have to touch me in a certain way. And then we have beliefs about, well, for me to get someone to touch me in a certain way, I have to look like this, or I have to say this, or I have to flirt in a certain way. And we have no idea that the person across from us has different rules about how they feel loved. So, if we both value love, I might have a rule that says, well, I can feel loved when I'm touched in a certain way. And you might have a rule that says you only feel loved when somebody tells you that they love you, or they take you on a trip, or they give you gifts, right? These are kind of the love languages. We can think about it that way as well. And so most people have no idea that the person across from them has different rules about how they experience and feel love. And so we're usually giving love in the way that we want to receive it. And then underneath that, we also have beliefs. So a belief is the best strategy that we need to use to get that value met. So that might mean I feel like my belief is I need to look a certain way. I need to act a certain way. I need to say something or I need to be giving to people or a people pleaser in order to get love. And so because there's these three different levels, most people have no idea what they are. And then you can have conflicts at any of those levels. My beliefs might conflict with my values. The rules that I have might conflict with another value I have. And so a lot of what I do is just helping people get clear, because like you said, often in relationships, we want that intimacy and connection, and we also want freedom. And so that creates some kind of cognitive dissonance in us sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, all those areas, like you're saying, and I can see why so many relationships are so hard, because everyone has all this stuff going on and they don't know themselves and they don't know the other person. They think they know themselves and the other person thinks they know. So this is just a total cluster, as we like to say.
Yeah. Well, so this is a good framework. So you can start by looking at, what are the things I value in my life? And it's not just what they say they value or what you say you value. It's the things that you do naturally and automatically. Like, I really value learning and growth. And my belief is that if I read books, I'll learn and grow. So because it's such a high value for me, I don't have to schedule time in my day to go read books. Like, it's a natural impulse that I would feel uneasy if I didn't read a book. And so when we value something, that's kind of how it shows up, is like we have this, we're compelled to do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's my thing too. Love of learning is very high for me, and I read and learn constantly.
Right.
And that I cannot not do that.
And so for someone who has, let's say a fear of abandonment in a relationship, they're going to be compelled to act differently. They might think, oh, I have to be a people pleaser so somebody doesn't leave me. And they're going to have this compelled urge to do everything they think their partner wants, because that's their belief about how they get love, which is the thing that they value.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to the anxious attachment style avoidance. Like, yeah, if they're convinced someone's going to leave them, they're going to do, this whole thing all ties together.
Yeah. Well, it's all just, like I said, it's all those layers. So there's, I have different values and you have different values, and we each have rules for how we know we're meeting those values, and we each have beliefs for the best strategy. And so when you just think about that simple framework, you can look at the person across from you. You can see how they act. You can see how their emotions come up. And then, I talk a lot about patterns, recognizing patterns. And so you can start to see like, oh, this person has a rule that they don't feel loved if I show up 10 minutes late for dinner. Or, I tell a story. I dated this girl, and we had gone on like 3 dates. So it wasn't anything serious. And she would get angry and kind of feel offended and hurt if I didn't call her or text her every night. And so she has this rule in her mind, oh, if the person I'm talking to doesn't call me every night, then he's not a good communicator and this isn't a good relationship. But I didn't have that rule, and I didn't know her rule. It took me a few times of her getting upset to be like, wait, why is she getting upset here? Oh, she has a subconscious rule that makes her feel in her body uneasy or forgotten unless she gets a call every night. So when you know this, you can see your partner's patterns and you figure out exactly what they want, how to make them feel loved, how to make them feel appreciated. And then your relationship gets so much better.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking that it'd be good to have this chat, and then I'm sure you're going to explain like how people can understand and even like change them or affect them in some way.
Yeah, so we can go into that right now, and it's actually stupidly simple. It's really simple. So there's just a few questions, and you kind of need to know how to navigate them. But when someone is speaking about something, all you have to do is say, oh, why is that important to you? And you'll start to get to their values. And sometimes you have to ask it a few times, and they may say, oh, I want to be in a relationship. Oh, why is that important to you? And they may think about it. Well, just, so I can have a companion to do things with. Oh, why is that important to you? Well, I guess it's so that I can feel loved. That really gets to the base of why most humans do what they do, is to get loved. But so when you ask, why is that important to you? You get to the value. And then once you're at the value, you just have to ask, well, how do you know? How do you know if you're loved? How do you know if you're successful? So just the question, how do you know, brings out the rule that they have. And you may need to ask it a few times. And some people have multiple rules. In order to feel loved, I need to have 5 things. And it's hard for that person to feel loved because they have so many rules around it. So how do you know is the next question. And then the belief, all you have to ask is, well, what's the best way to go about that? Or how do you go about getting that rule met? And so they'll say, oh, well, I guess I wear low cut shirts, or, I go to the gym. So I look fit, or, I cook dinner for my partner, whatever their belief is about how they meet their rule. So those are the 3 questions. And you can just ask people that, and they won't feel like they're getting interrogated. It's pretty straightforward, and you can really figure out what drives someone's subconscious mind and their programs.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it sounds so simple. And like, now that you say that, yeah, just ask those questions. And I can see the reverse of this, or not the reverse, but the negative side of this, where someone like a manipulator who's not that interested might use this. But if you're actually trying to build a relationship and want something to work, this is like phenomenal. And I can think of many groups that I want to like offer you to sell this stuff, or like to share this stuff with.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just, we're talking about relationships, and it obviously shows up there, but this shows up in your career. If you have employees or a boss, how valuable would it be to know what their values are and what drives them and what their rules and beliefs are? Or if you're in court and you're facing a judge or a jury, knowing what their values are, or in a negotiation. I mean, this stuff applies in every area of our life. If you went into that and you thought, what does this person value? And you could probably figure that out by going to their Facebook page or their social media, or even from your interactions you've already had. What does this person value? And then how do they know? How do they go about living that value? And then you can really pretty easily see the rules and the beliefs they have, and then just speak to them, and you can kind of hit their triggers and make them feel good and have a good connection and influence them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a good point to say how people can reach you and the programs you have upcoming, or whatever you want to share. And then we can get more into stuff later too, if we want.
Sure. So I'm just in the middle of creating this values course. It's called Living Your Highest Values. We just did week 2 last night, and people were kind of blown away because we uncovered all of their internal conflicts. And then next week, we're going to reset their values, their rules, and their beliefs. And so if someone's listening to this at any point, they can get that course and the recordings, and there's a few hypnosis audios that go with that. And that's at ministryofthemind.org/values. And if they sign up for the free trial, they get access to the entire course. So they can go in 2 weeks, sign up for it, get the course, take it, and then unsubscribe if they want it for free. But it's a pretty life-changing process.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like there's no more to say. Like, it's almost like you cover everything, and this is like something a lot of people deal with. And this is the answer to their questions. I mean, and then obviously you have to work with them a little more than that. It's not that easy to
Yeah. So there's some distinctions, and a few of these came up on our call last night. One thing to keep in mind is when you have rules and beliefs where you put the power on an external source, Tamara has to do this in order for me to feel loved. My mom and dad have to tell me this in order for me to feel successful. It's really unreliable, and it's hard to meet consistently. And so your emotions are going to be in the hands of other people. And so when you have, we say the word unconditional. Well, a condition is really a rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so if you can get rid of the conditions for you to feel love and for you to feel happiness and for you to feel successful, you can feel unconditional love because it is generated from within you, and you don't need it from an external source. And that's where you feel free and you feel fulfilled. And the compulsion, like the compelling feeling that you have to be a people pleaser, or that you have to act in a certain way, or you have to comply with society standards, that just goes away once you get rid of the conditions for your happiness and for your love and for your joy. And so I think this is kind of the whole journey, is how do we figure out what our rules are that stop us from feeling love all the time. And then you take power back and you say, oh, this is actually something I can generate within myself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So here's something else to consider, Tamara, is we want to have a value system where our most important value is supported by our second most important value, which is supported by our third most important, which is supported by, all the way down the line of our values. And so a lot of us, we don't have that where, they conflict. And so we want a relationship first, and then secondly, we want freedom. And so like these two conflict. And so you got to align your subconscious mind so that when you're in a relationship, you actually have more freedom. And so again, this is just how your rules and beliefs are configured. And that's what this program is about, is helping people really see what's driving their nervous system and their subconscious mind, and aligning their values, rules, and beliefs at every step so they all support each other. And that's when you feel whole, you feel congruent, you feel like you have your foot on the gas and not on the brake anymore. And so, I mean, you can probably start to see how important that is for relationships and career and money and your health and really every part of your life.
Yeah. And I had a previous guest talk about values, and she has an actual like sheet where you can download like a huge list of values. So I think the combo of this and that information will be perfect. And I am so glad I had you on again. And I'm so glad you sent that email. So I think a lot of people will get a lot from this. So thank you again for being on. Any final comments, or that was kind of it right there?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about and eye-opening for most people. And I can be reached at Nicholas@ministryofthemind.org, or you can check out this values course at ministryofthemind.org/values. And again, if you sign up for the free trial, you get it for free with a bunch of other hypnosis audios and a bunch of other courses as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for offering that. And I think everyone will get a lot out of it. So thank you again for being on.
My pleasure. Thanks, Tamara.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.